All right, so we're going to get ready to go. Start with a little bit of setup for this. I have a really hard time not looking at you guys. Camera's down here, and you guys are up here. So I'm going to try my best to look directly at you, because if I look directly at you, it looks like I'm looking somewhere else. But so there's a chat function on Zoom. If you're on your desktop, you can see it down at the bottom of the window. If you open that up, it'll be open for me the entire time we're on here. I'm going to ask you all to put your mute. That helps with the recording. So that we don't keep away from me.
Stop.
So, if you have any questions, comments, or things you think you'd like me to address in addition to what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and throw it up in the chat window. I'm going to have that open during the but again, if we not personal, it just it's a little bit distracting to hear other people during the webinar. So if you do have questions, you can throw them up. Abby's first comment: my mom took a toddler for the weekend, so I don't know what to do with myself. It's fantastic, Abby, because that's exactly the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Is that ability to sit with discomfort, boredom, that kind of stuff. But more on that a little bit deeper into the hour. I want to set you guys up a little bit for what we're going to do during this hour. We're going to, this week's going to be a little bit different from the weeks upcoming, because I am going to take some time to set up the larger context for this, give you an outline of the tools that you have at your disposal for Lifeline. That's going to probably take about 10 minutes. Set up the context that I talked about in the welcome video about fear and fearlessness. And then we'll get into a little bit more about the whole life challenge and some of the things that you guys submitted as a part of your self-assessment. Now, some of that stuff will come up as I go through the hour. I'll address some of the things that you guys brought up. I may not say your name specifically, but hopefully you may recognize some of this content as you, and addressing specifically you and generally you. You may think I'm only talking to you because I might be using your words. But know that many of the things that you submitted, other people submitted. And that's one of the really important things that this group coaching program is designed to help you see. Because the things that you struggle with and the things that you suffer from are not unique to you. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you're not unique. It just means that other people struggle with and suffer from all of the same things that you do. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that is a comfort. So first bit of this is going to be going over Lifeline. Second is about working with fear. And the third is the whole life challenge, health and well-being, the context of the whole life challenge, and the things that you guys brought up. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them up in chat. I may not address them immediately because I might be in the middle of something, but I will get to them. Okay, so the Lifeline program. The idea behind Lifeline is to give you a lifeline during the whole life challenge. And what that means is a lifeline is something to reach out for when you need a little bit more support in a difficult situation. That might be more generally throughout your experience of the challenge, and that might be more specifically in a specific instance, something that you're working with, something you want to share with the group, something that you want to ask me about, and we're going to talk about the different ways that you can do that, because this is not one-on-one coaching, right? This is a group experience. And sometimes when we do these webinars, I will be talking about a person or somebody's issue, but if you listen in a way that it actually is applying to you, you may get it in a way that you wouldn't get it if I was talking directly to you. I've gone through a lot of coaching in my life, and actually I respond much better when I hear someone being coached than when someone's coaching me directly. It's just, I'm human. I may get more defensive if it's about me, but I may be able to hear it more if I think it's about somebody else. So listen for the opportunities for yourself in all of the things that are being said and are being shared in the Facebook group. There's a couple of things that are going to help you get the most possible out of this experience. One is to participate in every element of the Lifeline program as fully as you can. So that means, using the experience, coming to the webinars, asking questions at the webinars if you have them, being in the Facebook group, not just bringing your issues to the Facebook group, but working with other people on the things that they bring. Because one of the things that you may discover, as I talked about fear, is that the thing that will help to dispel fear is compassion. Really being able to remove yourself from your own experience and put yourself into somebody else's is a great antidote for fear. So being willing to get in there and working with other people, using me as much as you need to, as much as you want to use me, that's fine. If you don't really feel like you need to message me on a daily basis, that's fine too. Most people don't message me very regularly, but I am here and I'm available for that. So participate as much as you can and when you feel compelled to. The other thing is to be consistent. And that's with this and the whole life challenge. This is not an experience of like go big or go home, but it is designed to be around consistent steps every day. And sometimes they might feel small. Sometimes they might feel insignificant. Sometimes they might feel like they're not getting anywhere. But the only way really to make changes in your life or in our lives in general is to take consistent actions every day. It's sort of like the way a river will carve out a canyon over time. It doesn't carve it out in a day. So your consistency is really important. Third thing is to be as honest as you possibly can with yourself. Often we don't know what the truth is, but we do know when we're lying to ourselves. And sometimes that comes in a physical feeling. You don't actually have the voice that says you're lying, but you'll feel it. For some people, you might get a little dizzy. You might get a little nauseous. You might feel yourself contract a little bit. And so you want to expand yourself when you have those experiences. And it doesn't mean you have to tell someone in front of you that you're lying, but you want to be really, you want to develop the ability to be honest with yourself. And the more that you deal honestly with yourself, the less shame and embarrassment will come up as you need to be honest with yourself. And that's really the most important thing, is to be able to separate truth and facts from shame and embarrassment about them. And lastly, about the experiences, be respectful and be compassionate. And that might seem obvious to you, like I want you to be respectful and compassionate to the group, and I don't suspect anybody here would be a jerk. But I'm also talking about being respectful and compassionate to yourself. You're here to dig some stuff up. And as you dig some stuff up, you may confront some pain, some discomfort, some things that you don't normally allow yourself to feel, things that you might push down for various reasons. This is just an opportunity to be respectful and compassionate of yourself. Because so often we like to imagine that we're only that good part of us, that part that we label good, the part that has it all together, the part that does all the right things, the one that says all the right stuff. But there's this entirely other part of us that we tend to hide from ourselves. We hide it from other people. And being compassionate for yourself as a human being is having all of those things as a part of your experience. Those things are just experiences in your life. They're not who you are. They are what is going on for you. And being willing to get through those things with compassion is a great tool for being able to grow in the way that we all want to grow. So those are really the ground rules. Pretty simple. Participate, be consistent, be honest, and be compassionate. Be respectful. So there are several tools. They've been outlined, but I just want to make sure that you know what they are. There's the private Facebook group. There is the messaging or emailing with me if you need to. Email it with me. If you guys wanted to use email, if you insisted, I'm going to have to get better about email. It's not an awesome way to get a hold of me. Most of our communications in the company are internal, and we use internal tools for that. So messaging me really is the best way to do it. So you can send me a message if you need to, and I'll talk a little bit more about why you might do that. There is the weekly webinar that we're going to do that will come along with a weekly check-in, which is not as intensive as the self-assessment, but it is an opportunity for you each week to put a marker down. This was a win for me this week. This is what I struggled with this week. These are questions I might have, so that I have some things to work with in the webinar, because the webinars are really built around your experience and the things that you guys need, as well as things that I want to share with you. And the last thing is the potential of an emergency phone call. And I'll talk a little bit more about the emergency phone call because I'm going to start with Facebook group. So the Facebook group, the thing to remember about this experience is with the commitment to being in the Lifeline program is also a commitment to being a lifeline for other people. So, and there's a reason for that you have the ability to do that because you've taken on for yourself something that is challenging, and it means you have a deeper understanding of what it feels like. You have an understanding when you put yourself on the line, you go out on a limb, what it feels like to be in that kind of situation. And that means that you know what it's like for other people because it's just not different for other people. You might look at other people and you might think, wow, they're doing this so much better than I am. Wow, they don't need the kind of help I do. Wow, they've got themselves together. But it's just not true. It might be true in certain areas that you struggle with and they don't, and that's a really important thing to remember. What's hard for you is hard for you. It doesn't matter if you are the only person in the world it is hard for. It doesn't matter. If it's hard for you, it's hard for you, and it's where you have the potential for growing. You also need to remember that what's easy for you may be hard for other people. So that doesn't mean what you want to do is when you're in the group is not listen for, wow, that's so easy for me. I don't even understand why it's hard for them. It means you just want to bring your understanding of hard. You want to bring your understanding of difficult. So when you feel something, when you experience struggle during the challenge or you experience victory during the challenge, you can be sure that everybody in this group, they know that feeling of struggle. And everybody wants to share in that feeling of victory for themselves. And your development of your compassion really starts to occur when you have these realizations that other people are sharing in the same experience, that we're sharing in a common experience. And the reason for developing compassion, again, is it's that tool that frees us from fear. It puts us into a more sort of universal state of experience rather than assuming that our life is broken, our life isn't going the way that we want it to. It's very common. And developing compassionate understanding for other people's experience can help to separate you from that fear you have for yourself. So you want to bring your struggles and you want to bring your successes because, and some of you may know what I'm talking about, some of you are more embarrassed by your successes than you are by your failures. Some people are very conditioned to fail. They know, oh, I'm just the kind of person who fails. Everybody knows it about me. Oh, I blew it again. It's almost easier to put yourself down than allow yourself to be up. Sticking your head up means it can get chopped off. So, you want to bring your successes if that is something that you typically find it hard to share. So because bringing these struggles and bringing these successes to the group means that we all get to relieve ourselves of this notion that we're going through these things alone, or that we alone are embarrassed by our own experiences. And you'll get to start to develop the courage that it takes to accept your own humanity, and your humanity contains all of these things. And courage and fearlessness is not that state where fear doesn't exist. It's where fear exists and you are able to act anyway. And that's a lot of what we're going to work with over the next 6 weeks, is developing that sense of fearlessness. So you want to share it all. And others get a chance to share in your experiences. They get to open up to a greater level of compassion and support. If you do not ask for support, nobody gets a chance to practice compassion and support. So that's really why this is a group experience. Your public participation means that we all get the chance to grow. So the Facebook group, part of the Lifeline, is going to give you the greatest opportunity for development in the challenge. So when it comes to the messages, now and then you may run up against something where you might actually need a response right away, and making a post in the Facebook group might not be the best way to get it. There may be times where you don't feel like sharing with other people and you just want to ask me something, and that's totally fine. I'm not commanding you guys to just put it all out there and be as uncomfortable as you possibly can with the group. Be as vulnerable and open as is possible. I encourage you to be vulnerable and open, but if you want to talk directly to me, that's fine. So I'm available to you guys for questions that you have. Not questions like, is this food compliant? If you're standing in the supermarket and you want to know and you send me a picture of an ingredient list, probably not. I'm not going to respond. I'm going to tell you to suss it out. figure out what's compliant on your level. That's not the kind of coaching that we're doing here. I'm not the compliance police, although I do have a lot to do with developing the rules in the company. That's not what this program is really about. If you're struggling or you're feeling stuck and you think you need an answer, and I'm not saying don't include answers about food, just not is this on the checklist. That's what you might want to send me a message about. And just so you know, generally about availability, mostly you can reach me between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. And this is a really interesting experience for me because I have trained myself over years of being in the Whole Life Challenge to not be glued to my phone. So I do have some boundaries around when I'm generally available, mostly during the workday, starting at 9 for sure. I get these messages on my computer. I do take a break in the middle of the day to go to the gym. Early evening, this is all Pacific time, early evening, I'm with my family making dinner, that kind of stuff. I won't usually ignore your messages if I see them. I mean, if I'm eating dinner, I probably won't have my phone at the table. But starting after dinner again, I'll have my phone with me, and getting around 8 or 8:30ish we're dwindling down. You may not be able to get a hold of me as quickly. Again, I won't ignore you if I see it, but I just may not see it as quickly. So that is generally what the messaging is about. Contact with me, the easy contact with me, the quick contact with me. These weekly webinars, they're going to be about 45 minutes to an hour. They'll be generally the same Wednesday and Saturday, so you don't have to come to both, although you're welcome to come to both. They are going to be recorded. I was about to post on Wednesdays up, and I realized there was a bunch of pre-webinar just silence and people watching TV while they were waiting to start something, so I lop that off before I post it. But they'll be posted for you if you can't make it one week, though really being here, I think is an important part of the program, so making it part of your schedule. There'll be some context. There'll always be some context from me, and then there'll be some content from you guys. And I will be working with individuals directly in the webinar. So I may ask you if I can work with you based on some of the stuff that you submitted. You can say no. You do not. There's no obligation to get up and work on this stuff in front of people. I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff to work with where you can do with what you're comfortable with. The weekly assessment that I just mentioned, you will submit the day before the webinar that you plan to attend. And it's going to be a real simple form. What were your wins this week? What were your struggles this week? What are some questions that you may have? These are actually really important. The self-assessment is a great tool for, at the beginning, honing in on what is important to you and what you really want to focus on and what you want to work on, and starting to uncover honestly what's happening. And these weekly assessments are going to be a little bit of a touchstone every week to let you know how you're doing in those areas, what you're working with, where you're actually making progress, what you still might be needing help with, and again, any questions that you have. So the assessments are a really important tool as a part of the program. So that is what the webinars are going to be. And then the emergency call. So some people might wonder, why would I call? Well, so I am your coach. Now I might not be your one-on-one coach, so we're not going to do long one-on-one sessions. But if you need to talk, in general, these conversations don't need to be long. It can be a 5-minute or a 10-minute conversation to really straighten something out. If you need to talk, if you're really struggling with something, you can hit me up for one call during the challenge. And the example of something that where you might call is you're starting to head downhill going into the weekend. Friday was already bad. You're thinking, I'm going to throw Saturday away. I'm going to throw Sunday away. I'm going to get fired back up on Monday and start again. Now, the fact that you're even thinking about it means it's not a good idea. It doesn't line up with your commitment, and you just need a little bit of a nudge to stay on track. You could also do that in a message. Someone, you might think, I'm really working on connecting with people, and I tried and I blew it, and I'm really upset right now. And we can talk about that kind of stuff. So that's really what the emergency phone call is about. But typically, beginning to rely more and more on your peers, on your group, being open, being vulnerable, allowing this stuff to just not be ashamed or embarrassed about this stuff is often the key to really letting some of it go. So that really is, those are the tools of the program. And if you have any questions about that before I go on, I'm going to give about 5 or 10 seconds for fast fingers to type any comments that I can answer. Looks like.
Did you say how to make that call?
Oh, thank you. So how to make that call. If you have Facebook Messenger, if you're on Facebook, you have Messenger access. On your phone, there is a Messenger app. And if you go to an individual, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little phone icon. That will actually make the phone call to me. So if you go to me on Facebook Messenger, send me a message and let me know you need to talk, just so I make sure like I'm not in the middle of dinner or something like that. And then we can set up, maybe it might be 5 or 10 minutes before I can get to you. But that's how we'll make the call to each other. Because you're all in the Facebook group, you do all have access to Messenger. Now the call I don't believe is available on desktops. If you don't have the app, I encourage you to get the app. But if you need to make a call and that's not available, we can figure out another way. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, so let's talk about the context of fearlessness and fear. So there's an idea about what fear means generally. When I think about fear, I usually think about the kind of fear that's the phobias, the things that are really obvious to us, things that where we know we're afraid, things that we might even think are funny about us, or they're things that we think is fairly normal. I am deathly afraid of heights. I've never been able to fix it. Right? I've always been afraid of heights. I have a very physical, visceral reaction to heights. Everybody in my life knows I'm afraid of heights. It's kind of funny that how afraid of heights I am. That's fine. And those kinds of fears are fine to work on. Fear of snakes, fear of spiders, fear of things in the world, but they're not really typically the things that stand in the way of us living the kind of life that we want to lead. I mean, if I wanted to be one of those squirrel suit guys, that would definitely stand in the way of the life I want to lead. But I can tell you right now, I don't want to be one of those squirrel suit guys. The phobia itself is enough to prevent me from even wanting that to be the thing. So what I'm talking about is the fear that we tend to feel embarrassed about. And I'm going to start to help to unwind this and give you a better definition. It's the kind of fear we have that reveals to us and maybe to other people that we're fragile. Humans are fragile. We're physically fragile. There are places in our experience inside of us that we don't know exist that can just pop up on us. That we're vulnerable. We need things. We need connection. We sometimes that reveal that we're not what we think of as strong enough to do it all on our own. And what that really actually comes down to is a fear of being uncomfortable, a fear of not having safety or security, or fear of pain. It's being vulnerable, it's being embarrassed. It's all those things about being a human being. Somebody said in one of their assessments, and it was a great quote, so I pulled it out. It's something that's consistently in the background of our experience. And what they said is it's a lot of background noise. And that's really what's happening. Your mind, your ego is constantly in a state of trying to maintain things exactly as they are. Because changing things means discomfort, changing things means insecurity, and changing things may mean pain. So it is in pursuit constantly of comfort, of security, and of pleasure. And the fear that we're responding to is fear of a feeling. It's the fear of the feelings of discomfort, the feelings of insecurity, and the feelings of pain. And so we do lots of things, in order to maintain this status quo where we can experience as little discomfort, a little insecurity, and as little pain as possible. We do things like we have our life in order. We become the strong one. We're someone who everybody thinks has it together. All that stuff is a form of safety and security that we call control. We think if we can control things enough, that we can keep our life, the way that we want it to go. And what I think many of us are experiencing, especially the people who will hear on this call or here in the Lifeline group in general, is that level of control, or that level it's not satisfying, right? You may be able to manage something with it, but it's not satisfying. There's something more that we're looking for, and there's only so much that allows for. Because the problem that we have when we're the kind of person who is the strong one, right? That means we don't get to be the weak one ever, and sometimes we need help. And that doesn't mean we're weak. It just means we need help. In being the person who has it all together, being the person who has their life in order, is that nobody really knows you at all. It's that good you I mentioned earlier on. Everybody knows the good you. Everybody knows the presentable you. It's the version of social media where you only post the best parts of your life. Social media is just our life kind of on the big screen or the little screen. We all do that. When we get in front of people, we only post the good stuff. Typically, generally speaking, we only post the good stuff. And the you that you think others approve of, and what do you think that does to the other part of you? What do you think that does to you and the part of you that you believe others don't approve of? That's the part that you don't approve of. That's the part that you wish was different. That's the part that you think reveals you as something weak, as something insecure, as something that needs. And that's the fear that we're talking about. We're talking about dealing with that part of you that you think is unacceptable. And all of the things that we do to cover that up. And that's in all of the habits, of the whole life challenge. It's in food, it's in exercise. It's like there's this narrow window of exercise where it's like we're actually using it for what it's for. And then there's this broader scope where it's almost using us, or we're using it for something else. We're using it to punish ourselves, or we might be using it to avoid something else. People who are chronic exercisers or who work out way, way, way more than they need to, maybe using it to avoid other parts of their life, the same way someone who just scrolls through Facebook all the time or watches too much TV might be doing it. So all of these things that we do to avoid that experience of the part of us that we don't think is acceptable. We avoid problems, whether that's problems with our spouse or our significant other or our kids or our coworkers or our business partners. We avoid those issues. We try to avoid being irritated as much as we can. We control, we organize, we create schedules, we work too much. We try and get things done. We try and control others. We try and meet what we think everybody's expectations are of us. We try to get it all done. It's, we're willing to feel so guilty about not doing what we think others want from us. So we work a lot because we need to meet other people's expectations, because if we don't, they might go away or they might not think I'm important. But we waste no time in putting our own work, our own needs to the side, our own expectations of ourselves on the side. And it's understandable. We're all trying to maintain this security in our relationships. There is this way that busy means important. And I know exactly what that feels like. The whole life challenge has, operated as basically in startup mode for 7 years. And that means that each of us who works here wears a lot of hats, but I manage the product. I'm a leader of the company. I'm a manager of several employees. There's a lot for me to do, and for a long time, I really had being busy. Being busy meant I was important. And there's, believe it or not, and I'll reveal something to you about our company. Andy and I always have that struggle. But it's not about Andy and it's not about me. It's our own personal internal thing of trying to be more important. I'm the important one. I am the important one. I'm the busy one. And that's actually something that we have done with each other, a ton of work to actually stabilize so that we can have a successful company. We're both very aware of it. It comes from the kinds of personalities that we have. It comes from who knows. It often doesn't even matter what it comes from. It just comes, it's good to know that it's there. So we've had to work through that. And being busy always meant something to me. And then I had a son. My son is almost a year old now. And my son does not allow me to be productive. I work from home. And for the first half of the day, my wife goes to work and I have my son at home. And he's getting on an age where his nap schedule is totally changing. He's extremely strong and active. He loves to get into things that he's not supposed to. And I don't get to do even half of the things that I think are important to do for my job. And the less I was able to do, the more I had to sit with like what I had being busy mean for me. Like it was a form of control. It was a form of me not wanting to deal with the fact that I don't think just me is just enough. It's enough the way that it is. And it's interesting because my son is a pet is often the same way. I don't want to compare my son to a pet necessarily, but this idea of someone in your life who knows you're enough without you getting all your work done, without you getting your car fixed, even if you didn't make it to the gym today, they don't care. You're enough exactly the way that you are. And he's been a really great lesson in I don't have to get anything done, and I'm still, I'm still enough for him. I'm still enough for me. So that has been a really great lesson for me in control. But this is not just control. We also indulge in things. We indulge in food. We indulge in entertainment. We indulge in buying things, in possessions. We indulge in, like I said, good things, even like exercise or meditation. Somebody in their assessment, they mentioned something about the difficulty they had between challenges in what they call special occasion eating. And we all know what that is, right? And it's a good thing to have. Like, this is not, eating well and taking care of yourself is not about total asceticism. It's not about removing all of the good things, the things you enjoy from your life, and knowing that this is a special occasion. This is different. I can have this today. I'm going to have this today because it's special and I don't do it all the time. And they had this expansion off the challenges of what a special occasion was. And special occasions are fine, but like I said, it can turn into this hedonistic pleasure cycle. And the reality is you just have to be willing to define special. You have to be willing to say, this actually defines a special occasion. It might be that, hell, I don't have a glass of wine anymore. I was in the habit of just opening a bottle of wine and in the evening to have with dinner, whether my wife was having any or not. I now don't have a glass of wine unless she's having a glass of wine, and she rarely has a glass of wine at home. And if we go out, I'll have a glass of wine if she has something to drink. So I had to create for myself a set of parameters around what special means. We often eat better when we don't eat out. So I don't eat out more than once a week, period. If we've eaten out that week, we don't do it again. Now, are there times when I have to break that rule? Absolutely. But as a general rule, it's once a week maximum. And your ability to define what special is for you helps you to get a sense of what it is that we're trying to control or what it is that we really indulge in. Because as you start to separate what you're going to do, you start to have to be with the discomfort that presents. You want to do something and you're not going to let you do something. And there's this inner kind of screaming, do it, do it, do it. And your willingness to be with that, fear is what develops fearlessness. What this comes down to, this indulgence in things, this indulgence in pleasure, or this creation of safety, or this insistence on comfort, is just us creating what we think is an environment around us where nothing can go wrong. It's a cocoon, this nice, soft, comfortable, kind of warm place, or it's a fortress where nothing can get in, or it's a playground where everything is about enjoyment and pleasure, and it's about creating this sense of nothing can go wrong. And the reality is, life is raw, and there's a lot of realness in there that doesn't feel good. And fearlessness is our willingness and even our desire to access those situations. And desire for is an interesting idea, because I wouldn't want to suggest like you should want your life to be hard, or should want it to be painful. But it's a little bit beyond willingness. It's like, yes, I want to know where I have numbed myself out. I want to know where I'm not feeling the kinds of things that I want to feel that would make my life really, really, really rich. Someone talked about not, having a difficult time in a later part of life getting into a relationship because of a real fear of heartbreak. And it's interesting because we're so prone to thinking about love as a romantic relationship with another person. And the question really is, if you want love, can you open your heart to the world and not have expectations about what it looks like, or that it turns into a relationship? Like, what would that look like for you? What would it look like to be more loving in the world? Like, again, so much we have this idea about if it's an expectation. Well, it would mean I'd be in a relationship with a person that I find really attractive and who finds me really attractive. And there, one of the things you may discover is that opening your heart to love has an amazing way of making many, many, many more people feel attractive. It has an amazing way of making the person you're with feel more attractive. So often we put barriers up inadvertently, like not on purpose, between the people who we love and ourselves. And we're so committed to this idea of comfort and safety and pleasure, or the avoidance of pain, that we're willing to sacrifice the connection, the simplicity of what a relationship is really about. Connection with another person, support from another person, and even in an interesting way, the people that we're closest to actually help to surface the things that are buried deep within us that we want to let go of. I don't know. I assume many of you, if not all of you, have been in or are currently in some kind of a relationship that has rough patches, or that has consistent rough patches. The same things come up over and over and over again. And we often think of those as bad parts of the relationship. Sometimes we think of it enough as bad parts of a relationship where we say, I'm going to get out of this relationship and I'm going to get into another one where that doesn't exist. And the problem is it doesn't ever exist in the other person. The other person's just bringing it up in you. So you don't get to leave it. But we because of those things, we tend to block ourselves off from the people that we want to be closest to. We protect ourselves from the way that we feel, so that we can look good, or that we can elevate ourselves. And meanwhile, we're missing out on that, on living authentically. Looking good, like I said, it's the same as faking it on social media. We have this preoccupation with not touching on the places that are raw, because they're really tender, and they're also very real. They're real. It's a really funny distinction to think about. Like, it's not that the things that aren't hard aren't real. They certainly can be. Not everything has to be hard to be real. But oftentimes the things that we present as easy or together aren't nearly as real as those things that we lose control over. Because when you lose control over something, it just is what it is, without you adding anything to it. And that really is something that's valuable to get access to. And we spend our lives protecting ourselves from it, from the fact that the world is chaotic, that we are chaotic, that there is no such thing as control, that there is no such thing as safety. And so we do it. So we eat when we feel bad. We drink when we feel bad. We lash out. We get angry and yell at other people when we feel bad, even if they had nothing to do with it. Think of how many people you yell at from your car who you've never met, who you'll never know, and you actually make it that they are the problem in your life. Or we buy things. We buy. God, Amazon has made it so good. It's made it so good. You come home in that package with the tape that you recognize just sitting there on your doorstep, and it's such a yummy, yummy feeling. Or when you click the buy now button, make it seem like we've actually done something to make our lives more secure. We entertain ourselves. We collect things. So many people, one of the biggest things in the self-assessment, you guys might be surprised to know, is the average lowest thing rated in the self-assessment is this relationship to our body and how we feel about it, the confidence that we have in our body. Second thing, clutter. It's like, I can't remember what the number was exactly, but it was less than an average of 6. So somewhere in the area of 4 to 5. And it's clutter. And we call it clutter, but it's almost like it's a fortress that we've built around us. Or it's playground, or it's a cocoon. It's a collection of things. It's all of the things that we have continued to buy or aggregate because we think if we just get enough things, if we buy enough things, if we have enough things around us, everything is going to be fine. And it's just a totally false sense of security. It's one of the reasons why decluttering is one of the most popular well-being practices in the Whole Life Challenge, because letting go of those things actually starts to open up your life, what's around you. They call it in Tibetan Buddhism, they call it the Lord of Form. There are 3 lords of what they call spiritual materialism. And the Lord of Form is that it's a compulsion to make ourselves comfortable, to create a cocoon of safety. And it is a kind of materialism. I don't mean materialism where you buy too many things or you think money is the only thing that's important, although that is one form of it. That's a different kind of materialism. It's an obsession with creating a structure of material world around you, where you think if you can get enough stuff, and it's not just things you buy, it's not just nice clothes, but it is nice clothes, and it's not just the house, and it's not the car, but it's a good relationship, it's a good looking boyfriend or girlfriend. It's the nice feeling that you get from having a cocktail every evening, or your evening bubble bath, or being organized, or buying gadgets, or meditating. Even you can use any of these things to get away from, as opposed to get into your life. So we never have to feel the things that we don't like. It's all, so we have these fears of failing, the fears that the things that we're going to do aren't going to make a difference, the fears that we're going to look stupid, the fears that people are going to judge us for our believing that we're worth the effort. There's this fear of being soft in a world that's hard, because if you really believe that the things that you were avoiding, those things that you avoid because they're uncomfortable, because they're not pleasurable, if you thought they were guaranteed to give you the life that you wanted, would you say, I would rather sleep? No, you sleep because you decide it's not going to work. You decide that you're not worth it. Or would you decide, I'm just going to watch one more Netflix episode, whatever it is? I mean, doesn't matter how good the show is. I don't care if it's Game of Thrones. It's a great show. But it's not an excuse to watch episode after episode after episode. Would you rather be entertained than live an authentic life? And of course you wouldn't, but we so often choose it. We choose comfort over facing fear, and authenticity comes from facing fear, because life is just an uncertain place. It's uncertain in physical safety. It's uncertain in how people are going to be in your life. Are people going to disappear, or are people going to get angry at you? Someone going to hate you? But going towards that comfort just doesn't get us the results. And I think everybody at a certain point discovers that. I've been going towards comfort and I don't want to do it anymore. It's not giving me results. going into the fear and sitting with it and being with it and allowing it to be a part of who you are and your experience is the thing that's going to start allowing you to create the future that you want to live in. Not because it's good to be afraid, but because it's important to be real. And so fearlessness is not the absence of fear. It's the ability and the willingness to act anyway. So it doesn't mean doing something stupid. It doesn't mean me going bungee jumping, although I have gone bungee jumping, believe it or not. And it doesn't mean acting foolishly. It doesn't mean just, throwing away all social graces. Although you might feel like the things that you're doing are foolish, but typically that's your ego saying, stop, 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 stop. That's foolish. Sometimes it might feel like you're about to step off into an abyss and you don't know how far the fall is. But most of the time it's like 2 or 3 feet. And we create monsters in our lives that were never actually there. It's about choosing to live real life over choosing to sink into comfort. So when I talk about working with fear and fearlessness, what I'm talking about is that acute sense of reality, of life, of being you, of loving and being afraid not to be loved back, of wanting something and afraid you're going to fail and not get it, or someone's going to think you look stupid. It's that more tender and real and vulnerable kind of fear. It's the fear that we are ashamed of having. And being vulnerable is not about putting on a show. It's not making sure that everybody knows you can cry, because that's just another form of protecting yourself. Oh, showing that I'm a vulnerable person as opposed to being a vulnerable person. No. Being vulnerable means showing up for yourself, no matter how you feel about it and no matter what you think other people think about it. It means being willing to stand up and say, I matter too. This thing matters to me. It means saying, I'm scared. I need help. Sometimes it means like just looking honestly and saying, so today was not a good day, man. It wasn't, and really, really meaning it in a way that shares what the day was like. I yelled at my kid and I just hate myself for it right now. And sometimes when you allow yourself to do that, you touch right on that thing. It's like you feel all of the stuff rise up in your body. And those are really good signs to look for, the heat in your face and the knot in your gut, the inability to all of a sudden think straight thoughts. When you feel those things, it's like you're really starting to get in touch with what you're really afraid of. I'm afraid of missing out on life, on love. And so we shoot the messenger, and the messenger is the feelings. We protect ourselves from the feelings. So we have a drink, we lash out at someone. God, man, my thing is just, is I get like, my wife doesn't even have to be involved. I can be having a bad day and she can come in and do absolutely nothing. And all I want to do is blame her for it, because somehow it gives that energy an outlet. Lash out, we watch TV, we go on Instagram. We're looking for ways to get that either energy out or down, right? And as opposed to just letting it be exactly where it wants to be and let it be as real as possible. And then what we do is we get what we're afraid of, right? We get, if I were to consistently lash out at my wife, I would get the disconnection that I'm afraid of, but the payoff would be that I don't have to feel those feelings for myself. I get to just put them out there on somebody else. And those feelings are the feelings of your life happening. And the more you do it, the more you cover it up, or the more you push it down, the more you have to do it. And it's the more you eat, the more you drink, and the more you fake it, and the more you try and look good. And that ends up just showing up in our bodies. And it shows up in how we feel about our bodies. And it shows up in in what we believe we're even willing to do. Because we'll often stop believing in ourselves as a result of all of this stuff. And it's not just there for you. It's there for everybody else. Like, I know that it's really easy. You see, I'd be surprised if there was somebody on this call who doesn't see this in themselves. But everybody on this call is going through this in some part of their life. It might not be the same part of your life, but that is totally irrelevant. Like, the features of it are irrelevant. The experience of it, the reality of it is what is true and what is real. So the question is, what do we do about it? In this situation, and where we are right now, how do we start to chip away at it? Well, it has a lot to do with being willing to shift your context around things. So when you decide, when you guys sign up for the Whole Life Challenge, when you decide to do something like this, to actively go into changing your health and well-being, it can often feel very overwhelming. It can feel like there's so much to do. It can feel like there's so many things to confront, so many things not to do, so many things to get. I need to get shoes for this. I might need to get a heart rate monitor. It's like we put all of these obstacles in our way of starting to just shift our lives in small but noticeable ways. And what I'm going to tell you is the first thing to add before you go out and buy anything, before you join anything, before you throw anything away, is to shift your context. And it takes a little bit of work when you start. Rather than trying to put things into your life, rather than trying to fit something into your schedule, put an hour of gym session into your life, or try and get in 20 minutes of meditation every single day, or trying to only make perfectly healthy meals, slow down. Like you want to take a breath. And rather than trying to put all of these elements of health and well-being into some crack, nook, or cranny of your life, you want to switch it around. And you want to think about putting your life into a context of health and fitness. It's like looking through a pair of glasses that allows you to see opportunities or to look for opportunities. And you might have some familiarity with this. If when you signed up for the Whole Life Challenge, it may not have been scheduled to start right away. Maybe it was days earlier, maybe it was weeks earlier. But as soon as you did it, you started to see things that you hadn't seen before. You may not have done anything about it, but you might have started to notice that's not working for me. That's not working for me. Those are opportunities for making changes. Or you might have all of a sudden said, geez, I can't believe I have all this junk in my cupboard, and just thrown it away. Like you start to take actions when you just shift your context, because your life is different from everybody else's life, and your opportunities for low-hanging fruit are different for everybody else, and your opportunities for movement are different from everybody else. Your physical body is different from everybody else's. So did you start doing small things differently? Those are the kinds of things that you want to notice. Starting to ask yourself questions about the things that you're doing in your life, and can you just do them better? Before you get bogged down in what classes to take, or what gym to sign up for, or what diet you should follow, like just thoughts. If it's about sleep, like, okay, I want better sleep. Okay, what could you do? What can I do right now that I'm not doing? Maybe I tend to watch 3 episodes of something a night. Let me just watch 2 instead of 3. I'm just going to start there. Could I do 3 minutes of breathing before I went to bed and try that? How do I wake up in the morning? Like, do I set myself up to have a good day? It's just the alarm ring and I curse it and I just guzzle down coffee. It's like, what if as soon as the alarm went off, before you said anything to yourself, you just took a deep breath and said, just grateful for waking up today? Because I don't know how many people don't wake up every day. I don't know if it's 10,000, I don't know if it's 20,000, but you did. And probably most of the people that you love did. And if you can just take a breath and know that about your life is also true, and have a glass of water, maybe before your coffee, you can start to shift things a little differently. It's not about adding an hour's worth of work to your life. Do you live somewhere where you can walk instead of drive sometimes? I have a Trader Joe's around the corner from my house, and I am ashamed to say I drive there sometimes, not all the time. I can walk there in less than 10 minutes, and I drive there. And it's like, what if I were just to say, I am never again going to drive to Trader Joe's? It's a subtle shift. It's not about it probably adds 5 to 10 minutes to the entire trip. It's not about adding, again, it's not about going to the gym and figuring out what my routine is going to be. It's about subtly changing the context. So the Whole Life Challenge is an opportunity to start seeing your life as full of opportunities for 1% changes and 2% changes. It really is about putting your life into the context of health and well-being, rather than trying to grab everything that you ever read about or you ever heard about, you ever wanted to try, and making it fit into your life, because that will drive you crazy, and it's a recipe for failure. Your life is just full of opportunities if you ask yourself, if I looked at this moment through the lens of health, I'm about to go to lunch. If I look at this lens of health and well-being, what could I do differently? Not perfectly, but better than I would have done if I was on autopilot. And a lot of times the fear will pop up, the ego will pop up and say, no, 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 that's gross, that's uncomfortable. Gratitude, pointless, stupid, nothing changes. It feels stupid to do it anyway. What if I did it? What if you do this and everybody laughs? What if people ask questions that you don't want to answer? What if I say I love you to someone and they don't say I love you back? And again, those are the opportunities. And working with the fear and being with the fear means acting anyway, because you're in charge of this. Your ego's not in charge of this. And it does take time, and it does take attention and effort and consistency. And you're going to find yourself sliding all over the place with this. Sometimes it's going to be easy. Sometimes it's going to be extremely hard. But that feeling of fear, that twisted up in knots, the words that you hear in your head when you put your attention on it, just allowing them to be part of the experience and having compassion for yourself. Like being willing to say to yourself, this is what it's like to be me. And I don't mean like, oh, fuck, this is what it's like to be me. No, this is what it's like. This is me being me right now. This is it. This is what I have. This is what I've got. This is what I've got to work with. It's the only way through. What am I going to do with what I've got? I'm going to be I'm take the opportunity to be compassionate with it, or at least respect that it's part of me. You can't go around it. It's like a river that runs forever in both directions. You got the choice to stay on this side or go through it. It's the only way past. There's no way around it. And that's the work that we're going to be doing in this challenge. So just to tie this into a little bit of the things that you guys submitted in your self-assessments, there are things that people wanted to work on. One of you was talking about just general sense of criticism. Like I criticize either it's my wife or my husband or my girlfriend or my boyfriend. I feel really critical. And again, it's in some senses it's needing to control, but in a lot of senses it's avoidance of our own stuff. I talked about lashing out. Being critical is the same thing, because one way to bring yourself up is to push other people down. So rather than bringing ourselves up by doing work on ourselves, we just push someone else a little bit lower, and all of a sudden I'm elevated. And when we notice that we're criticizing someone, especially for something that we want to do for ourselves, it's like there's an opportunity to recognize, oh, I'm avoiding what's happening to me right now. Like if I was saying the same things to me compassionately, what might I do? Maybe I should go do one of those things. Because why would I know you don't want to have that kind of relationship with the person who you love in your life. You don't want to have that disconnected, beat down relationship. And recognizing that this stuff is so much as you avoiding the feelings that you're having about yourself and just putting them onto other people. Really similar thing, someone talked about addressing conflict. Conflict so much has to do with something has just come up. Somebody said something and it made me believe something about myself or made me believe something about our relationship. And this is hard. I avoided conflict a lot in my life. I still have a tendency to avoid conflict if I'm not careful, because it's like these voices say, well, what if you get in conflict and you lose them? What if it turns out that I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? That I look stupid? And it's like, well, maybe you are wrong. So maybe you might avoid lashing out and getting into a fight about it, but it might be worth discovering if you are making a mistake. But more importantly is that willingness to let that fear, that feeling, and I feel it here all the time. I don't think there are too many places where it distributes itself generally in the body. I feel it in my gut and here. Like sometimes I feel blinded by it, like I can't think. But it's that willingness to allow that just to be the experience. And knowing, again, this is me. This is my life. This is me happening. I am happening right now. And this doesn't have to always happen this way. But if I keep pushing it down, it's only going to keep pushing itself back up. It's really getting it out in a productive way and not in a way that is destructive to the things that we want for our lives, like yelling, like eating, like avoiding exercise. Somebody had a great comment about having a really hard time getting into the week, getting their exercise in, and then wanting to relax on the weekends and not exercise and feel like they have permission to relax on the weekend. And that's great. You totally have my permission never to go to the gym or work out on the weekends. I never work out on the weekends. I do not work out on vacation. But doesn't mean I don't move around. I don't, it's like, again, you can change that context for yourself of doing something that's relaxing, but is actually good for you. Even if it's just taking a walk, whether where you live has a beach or a lake or a river or a park, or a hike, not an aggressive hike, but just a mellow hike to get out and breathe fresh air with somebody. Maybe you rent a bike and ride, or you have a bike, ride to a restaurant. You guys can have lunch together. There really is an opportunity to change what relaxation means. Because I promise you, once you start doing those things, it really fits like a lock and a key. Oh, God, not only do I feel relaxed, but I actually feel like I did something for myself. I feel like I honored myself and my commitment and maybe even my relationship. It's a chance. So putting your life in this health and well-being context is a chance to shape the context to get all of the things that you want. There's often watching too much TV, too much social media. Again, just avoiding discomfort. And you'll find that all of these habits that you have are about trying to stay comfortable, trying to stay safe, trying not to experience pain. And if you start to be able to see those things in those contexts and allow yourself to have those experiences, I want to eat that thing so bad, it's so good, it's so delicious, it makes me feel good. It's probably all true, but then it doesn't, right? So it's like there are patterns that you can break. Like if you have that thing that you consistently reach for, first of all, get rid of it if you can. But if you can't, if it's at work, well, make yourself a cup of tea instead. Slow it down. Take a walk. Have a glass of water and sip it. There are things, and it may be hard at first, but there are ways to change the patterns that you have in your life. There's so much of, I'm so busy, I'm too busy. Work comes home with me. I feel guilty about not working or about taking time off to exercise, about taking a day off from work. And again, it's that busy equals control equals important. But it does take practical work. There may be a day where you have to say, there is a lot to do and I am leaving. And I am going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out and you try it once. You say, I'm going to do it one time this month and you see what happens. You call it a day. You run the experiment. See if your life is better or worse. Just don't sit there and trust in the fear, because the fear is about feeding that part of you that says, people might not think the same about me. People might not like me as much. They might not think I'm as important. And again, phone, social media, YouTube, it's avoidance, distraction. It's that discomfort with boredom. Boredom does not mean you are boring, right? We're so used to the idea that we need to be entertained. Entertainment controls everything. We use social media, we shop, we eat, we watch TV. The entire culture is built around only ever feeling good and learning to be with the discomfort that comes up. And letting it be part of the human experience is so valuable to a full human experience. So the last thing is change. Change is hard, right? Change might be something that you do, and change might be something that happens to you. You might change, you might move to a new place, a relationship might end, you might start a new job, or you might lose a job. And if you can use these as opportunities to have something to explore, as opposed to having something to shut down around, like contract from, to be afraid of. There's so many opportunities in new situations. Taking the opportunity to learn something new about your situation, to learn something new about what would be relaxing. And you're not going to hit the nail on the head every time. And I understand that sometimes that feels hard, but the only way to get through it is to run small experiments. So if you're in a new city, what does that allow for? Does it allow you to ride a bike? If you live in Amsterdam, I think Amsterdam is a pretty hardcore biking city. Is that a possibility for you? There are a lot of new cultural opportunities in a new city where you can start new relationships. People are really interested in people who come from other places, who have had other lives. So it's that willingness to see change as an opportunity. So it's a little bit after 10:30, so I want to wrap this up. I want to give you a homework assignment. You may have seen something about a homework assignment that I posted in the Facebook group, and I'm explaining it to you now. In your self-assessments, you guys wrote about habits that you have. I believe it was the three habits that you have that you wish to shift, change, improve, adjust, eliminate, or have an impact on your life. And what you're going to do is pick one, and you're going to change it this week. That doesn't mean you're going to change it in the way that you think it would be perfect, but you're going to do something with it this week. You know, if it's about the way that you communicate with somebody who you love, it's like when you feel the compulsion to do that, you might just take 5 deep breaths. You might just take 5 breaths and then hold their hand and give them a kiss on the cheek. I mean, whatever works for you. You know, if you constantly eat after dinner, maybe you should brush your teeth as soon as dinner is over and get ready for bed as soon as dinner is over, and actually kind of put that part of the day to bed. You know, if you put off mobility or exercise until it's too late, find something that you can do, even if it's not 10 minutes, right? Like you may not have 10 minutes in the morning, but even if you can get down on the floor and start with like, I'm just going to do 20 push-ups. It might take me 5 minutes to do 20 push-ups or 10 push-ups or something that I can manage, just to get that part of your life into action. So you're going to pick something from that list of 3 habits that you struggle with each day, and you're going to change something about it. And you're going to get away from the idea that it has to be perfect. You just want to change something in the direction that you want to go in. Okay? If you're the person who does token workouts just to get the points, stop giving yourself points for token workouts. That's the answer, right? So that is there's a post in the Facebook group about the homework assignment. I want you guys to actually have a conversation there about the habits that you're shifting, what's happening for you, how it's going, what's coming up when you do it, and how you're seeing it change your life, and how you're seeing it change the things around you. Okay, so that is week 1 webinar. Are there any? So it's an hour and 7 minutes. It's a little bit longer than I said this was going to be. Does anybody have any questions they want me to address before we all take off? Does everyone just want to come off of mute and say goodbye and hear all your lovely voices?
Goodbye.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Have a great day. I'm really excited to work with you all. I appreciate you all joining up with the program. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know I'm going to get a lot out of it.
Goodbye. I'm going to work on one of those habits this week.
Fantastic. Post about it on Facebook, guys.
Yes,
Okay.
will do.
All right.
Thanks, Mikey.
Ciao.